mama what you need. Tell mama what you want. And I'll make everything alright.
This is Lee Habib with Our American Stories. And we love stories here about David versus Goliath, about small versus big. Stories of average folks, especially moms, challenging the status quo, challenging local government, challenging bureaucracies, doing what's right for their families, challenging their own government, who work for them but often forget it. A few months ago, I met a real-life David. I was seated next to her by chance, actually. It was the last seat in the House. There was a meeting in Chicago for Adam Andrzejewski's Transparency Army, American Transparency. She didn't say much. She seemed like, well, just an ordinary mom in an ordinary suburb of Chicago. We made some small talk. And then I discovered she was the person of honor at this particular event. She had stayed at home, raised her family. She's a classical violinist, a director at the local ballet. She's fought the height disadvantage all of her life, coming in at just 4 feet 11 inches. Her name? Kathy Hamilton. She decided to run for elected office to make her community a better place. And she won. But Kathy had no idea what she'd signed up for. This is her story. One mom versus the machine. Brought to you by our field correspondent, Alex Cortez.
I love my mama. When Kathy was elected a trustee of her local community college, the College of DuPage, they didn't provide her any training for her new job. But being a certified public accountant, she tried to make sense of the financial information that she had access to.
I saw significant issues with the auditing. I saw significant issues with needless cash accumulation, upwards of $300 million. And there was an issue of the request for a $20 million grant that looked like pay for play to me for an unsubstantiated, unexplained need for a building for $50 million.
Not a great sign, but Kathy was a newbie. There had to be some explanations, she figured. She would just ask them about it.
My idea was to go in front of the board and explain things and lay them out the same way I did when I was working as an analyst for Fortune 500 companies and as a CPA, just explain things, and of course people would understand. But actually, when I did that, I got censured, so that didn't work out very well.
Not much was working out well. She was standing alone on almost every vote, her vote versus the other 7. She didn't want it to be this way. All she wanted was to work together to make their community a better place. Here's Adam Andrzejewski of the watchdog group, American Transparency.
Moms like Kathy purely and simply want to straighten out the system. They don't go into politics to hand off a contract to their buddy. They don't go into politics to procure a job for their friends or their family.
When Kathy discovered that the employee running the college's radio station paid his own consulting firm $440,000 for equipment and services he never even provided, she asked for an independent review of the station's finances. She was ignored, and then she was kicked off the audit committee, despite being the only CPA on the whole board. They even asked her if she really was a CPA. They thought she was just a stay-at-home mom. Their words.
I was shocked. Because, you know what? You're never just a stay-at-home mom. Being a mom is the most important job there is for a woman, I believe. Because you are changing the world every time you work with your child and you support your child.
All of their personal attacks started to weigh heavily on her.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. Some of my family told me to quit. Some of my friends said, I am so proud of you for sticking up for people that can't stick up for themselves. So on either side, I had a little bit of pressure.
Kathy knew she had to do something different. Her reform measures were being voted down by every other board member, The machine wasn't going to bring about change.
At that moment, instead of taking this sort of studious approach to cooperating and, just sort of a scholastic approach to making change, I had to up my game and promote protest in a sense and insurrection. So that was kind of a difficult step for me to take.
It was time to rage against the machine. Adam did what he does best, filing Freedom of Information Act requests to force them to open up their books, starting with President Dr. Robert Bruder's compensation package, which had never been disclosed, despite being a public, taxpayer-supported college.
It was a battle to get the contract. The president did not want his contract released. The board had been told over many years that that was a private contract. They couldn't talk about it. The president had a contract of total compensation worth $500,000 per year. That's what started a great amount of public attention.
Making more than the governor of Illinois, his own boss, more than any governor in the country, more than the president of the United States, and for a community college president. No wonder they wanted to hide it. The $500,000 number doesn't even include the special perks Bruder gave to himself. The college paid for his membership to a private shooting club and a lot of fine dining and drinking at a French restaurant he opened up on the community college campus.
It might be the only French restaurant on any campus across the country, and that French restaurant lost roughly $2 million over its first 4 years of operation. So this president, Robert Bruder, not only developed this upscale French restaurant, complete with a world-class wine cellar, and hired a French sommelier, but also it wasn't enough for him. He opened up house accounts. And between the president of the school and his administrators and actually other trustees on the board, they racked up nearly $300,000 of expenses billed off against taxpayer students and the scholarship fund at this Waterloo French restaurant.
Adam's American transparency kept going.
We found a strategy delineated to the board to bring political support to then incumbent governor Pat Quinn in exchange for procuring a $20 million state construction grant. From the broke state of Illinois into the College of DuPage, who already had $200 million in its bank account.
Nothing to see here. Bruder was just joining in on the time-honored tradition of pay-for-play in Illinois. And then there was his email outlining that with the government grant, the college should bank it until we figure out how to use it, and then build something, anything, any way to get more taxpayer money.
Rarely do you get a peek inside of the system where they put it in writing. And so this is why this was so unique and so valuable.
So unique that pressure was building on him, big time. Bruder had no choice but to resign. Not that resigning was all that bad. The board of trustees, except for Kathy, voted to give him a nice little package.
He was given a $752,000 golden handshake to leave.
No amount of public shame was going to stop the machine from paying back one of their own. The friend who gave them lucrative contracts to their private businesses and French meals on the house. The board even went so far as to naming a building after him as part of his golden handshake.
'Cause I've got a golden ticket. I've got a golden twinkle in my eye.
But they messed up. The golden package was granted without public discussion and without a public vote, all violating the Open Meetings Act. Once exposed, they were forced to vote on all of it again, this time before the public. The machine tried to make it so that as few members of the public as possible would be there.
We had to win a court case to move it from a classroom that seated about 30 people, where the administration would reserve half of the seats for themselves, to a room to accommodate the large crowd. We won that court case at significant cost to our organization, and they sat the room for 300. And nobody thought we could get 300 people to show up to the meeting. And 500 people showed up. 75 speakers took to the microphone, and only one of them supported the old majority on that board and the administration.
75 speakers in opposition and one in support. And still the board publicly re-voted for his $750,000 golden parachute. 7-1. It was clear to Kathy that the machine was never going to listen. Not to her, not to taxpayers, not to anyone. There was only one option left: the brute force of elections to kick them out. Remember that Kathy had zero political experience before she ran for office. Now she was recruiting 3 reform-minded candidates to challenge incumbents so that they can take back the board.
I created a slate, and those individuals were termed the clean slate. And with a lot of elbow grease and work and fundraising, the clean slate won. And on April 7th, we formed the new majority at the College of DuPage.
The new reform majority, with Kathy as chairwoman, recently voided Bruder's golden parachute and is passing absolutely radical reforms, at least for higher education.
We have put in place in the budget a 5% property decrease and a $5 tuition decrease, which is pretty much unheard of.
It was a long road to get here for this ordinary mom, but a worthy road. A road we're all called to go on.
The only thing that can happen is failure. And then after you fail and you pick yourself up and you start all over again, you cannot be afraid to fail. You will fail. You will fail, and then you will succeed. There's nothing wrong with that.
One mom versus the machine. This is Alex Cortez with Our American Stories.